Okay. So before I start, a small introduction about me. This is Abhishek, and I have more than 8 years of experience working in cloud and DevOps. Currently, I'm associated with one of the MNs in Bangalore. And apart from that, I also provide training. From it's been a 4 year I have been providing training. So I have done a lot of corporate training in many companies like Capgemini, Cognizant, EPAM, and few of the universities as well. So that's all about me. Let me check whether I got the access or not. Yes, I have it. Let me share my screen and we'll start the session. Now, uh, let's discuss about what's the agenda. So agenda is basically we'll discuss about what exactly the cloud, basically what was the legacy approach you were following to deploy the application, and what all the problems associated with that, and then we'll discuss about how cloud is trying to resolve those problems. That's the reason it is becoming so popular these days. And once we understand what exactly the cloud, then we'll go ahead and learn about the discuss about the what exactly the DevOps is doing here. And then I will discuss about the complete roadmap to become a cloud and DevOps engineer. Okay, so that's the agenda. Now let's discuss about it. Suppose you are working in a company, and that company name is suppose ABC. Okay, whatever is just a company. Okay, in that company you are working, and in that company, suppose your manager asked you, this is my application, and you have to deploy this. Okay, you have to deploy this. Now, in order to deploy, what is the requirement? Our requirement is basically a server. We need to have a server. Once we get the server, we will be able to deploy this application to the server, right? So without getting the server, how where we will deploy? We have to deploy in the server. So the main goal is to from where we can get this server. Okay. Now, very first approach is, suppose you are asked to deploy the application, so you will go back to the data center and you will get the server. Now let's talk about what exactly the data center. Data center is basically uh, means a company. They actually they will be having one place, and in that place, when what they do actually, they buy the servers. Okay, they buy servers, storage devices, networking devices, okay, and power cables device to connect to all these devices, and they even arrange the power supply and the cooling system, because in order to keep the server running properly, they need cooling system and power supply to connect the this device with the electricity. After that, they even hire some people who will be maintaining all these devices and who will be taking care of the security of the devices as well. So, in which place they do such arrangement, that will be called as a data center. Okay. So, though your manager asked you to deploy the website, you need a server. You will go back to the data center, and from here you will get a server and you will deploy the application. Now, how you will deploy, that's a different case that we'll discuss later while deploying the application. Okay, so we need a server. So I went to the data center, I got the server, and I deployed the application. It is running perfectly fine. And users who are actually trying to access this application, they are able to access the application. Okay. Now, just think about, this is a very big company. ABC company is a very big company. They actually generates the revenue in the billions. So though they generate a revenue in billions, whenever they set up the data center, what they do actually, they in order to set up the data center, they have to go to the market, and from the market they will buy all these devices, and even they will hire people. Okay, in order to do such arrangement, it requires millions, right? So though it is a very big company, it is not a big deal for this company to set up their own data center. But think about a small company. something like company XYZ. This company is a very small company. You can think of something like a startup company. Now, this startup company does not have that much of amount so that they can set up a data center for their own. They cannot set up their own data center. So though they cannot set up the data center, then from where they will get the server? Because whenever they will go to market and try to buy the server, like I was discussing sometimes before, you have to go to the market, buy the servers. Okay, so when they will buy, they have to do upfront payment. Without payment, nobody gonna give that server storage devices, right? So they cannot set up the data center. So what they can do, they will also be having some application where they will deploy. They need server, right? So in that scenario, what was there earlier? There was a concept of hosting provider. Okay, earlier there was a concept of hosting provider. Now, what hosting provider was were doing? Hosting provider, they were telling, okay, instead you set up your own data center. We have our own data center. This is our data center. Okay, if you need anything, like this company need a server, right? You come to us, we will provide that. You don't need to set up your own data center. Okay, they resolve the problem. So let's see how they were resolving. What they were telling, suppose you need a server of any capacity. Let's say they need a server to deploy their application. Suppose 2 core CPU, then um, 10 GB storage, and suppose 4 GB RAM. And what they want, suppose Ubuntu operating system in that. So then they need a server of this capacity. They are telling that if you need anything, they have their own website. You come to our website. Okay, the hosting provider is telling that we have our own website. If you need any server, you come to our website, and in the website mention all the detail whatever you require, like this I mentioned, and raise a request. Once you raise a request, the request resolution time is basically 15 minutes to 12 hour of time minimum. Okay, and in that time, hosting provider, they will check your actually request. As per your request, they will tell you, okay, you need this server, we will provide you, but for that you have to, for example, you have to pay $100. Okay, $100 you have to pay per whole year. Means when you take a server from hosting provider, minimum you have to go for the 1 year or 3 year basis. If you need a server for half an hour or 1 month, they will not provide. They will at least give you 1 year of subscription, so you can use it for the 1 year. So for 1 year you have to pay this much. So what you have to do, you have to first pay the amount, then they will provide you the server. Okay, that is how the companies were working. But here there were a couple of problems. First problem is, suppose for a big company, in order to set up their own data center, it is not a big deal. Okay, but what about the small company? Small company is not able to set up their own data center. This is the one problem. Second problem is that, suppose you need a server for 1 month. Suppose even if a small company you are going to hosting provider, if you need a server for 1 month for any testing of the application, or 2 months or 6 months, they will not give you. They will give you at least for 1 year. Even if you don't need that much of means you don't need a server for 1 year, you have to pay that amount. You have to take it. So this is the second problem. Third problem is the request resolution time. Suppose you need a server urgent basis, you won't get it. It will take little bit time. Like minimum time is request resolution time is 15 minutes to 12 hours. It will take a lot of time. So these are the problem associated with. associated with that, with the with this approach. Now let's go and discuss about how cloud is resolving this problem. Okay. Now, what cloud is telling, a cloud also works in little bit similar to the hosting provider, but cloud is resolving all the problem associated with that. Now, suppose cloud company, what they are telling, we have our own data center. You don't need to set up your own data center. If you need any server, we will provide you. Okay, it resolves the one problem. If you don't have that much of money to set up your own data center, you can use the cloud to get your server or anything. Second problem is the any any resource you require. Okay, what you need to do, you simply go to the cloud providers console. So they have their own website. You have to go there. I will show you later. You have to go there, and in that you have to basically do the self service. Self service means you have to mention, suppose I need a server of 2 core CPU, 10 GB storage, 4 GB RAM, Ubuntu OS, or anything. You simply mention, and as soon as you will click on the create, automatically server will be created on the cloud provider's data center without any manual intervention. Doesn't matter which time you are creating, at the midnight, early morning, any time you are creating, within a minute your server will be created automatically and it will be ready to use. Okay, so you don't need to spend lot of time to get a server. You will not waste lot of time, which we are facing in the hosting provider case. I hope you understood. Now, this is the second problem also resolved. Third problem is that cloud provider is telling, suppose you have a requirement of server, you simply come to our console, means the website, and create the server. Within a minute, it will be ready to use. You created and you used for 10 minutes. After that, you felt that you don't need the server. You stop it. You will only pay for the 10 minute only. You created for 1 month, you will pay only for 1 month. You created for 6 months, you will pay only for 6 months. So this is how it is also resolving the third problem, right? So that is the reason cloud is trending these days. Not only this reason, actually, for how cloud came to picture. Actually, AWS means Amazon company, they were trying to resolve some problem which they were having. Basically, they were trying to automate the whole data center. So that is how they resolved actually the problem, and even they thought if we'll provide this service to everyone, they can generate the revenue out of it. That is how the cloud came to the market. And earlier, when the cloud came, means Amazon introduced the cloud concept, only they were providing the server, like I was discussing, right? Server, which was resolving the major issues, and even they were providing some notification services. Okay, but now if you'll see, not only server and notification, anything you can think of, like machine learning, blockchain, IoT, then artificial intelligence, virtual reality, business intelligence, any field you will see, even satellite services also, any field you can think of, everywhere cloud is available. Okay, so that is the reason cloud is trending these days. Okay, now we understood what is the cloud. Basically, suppose I have a company, I have couple of application, I have to deploy it. Okay, so in that case, I will be creating the infrastructure on top of the cloud, and whatever the infrastructure I will create, suppose I need server to deploy my application, I will create in the cloud itself, and I will deploy the application. So what is this server? This is an infrastructure for me. So we can develop our whole infrastructure on cloud in order to deploy the our application. So this is what the cloud is doing. Now, so we understood the cloud. Now let's talk about what DevOps is doing. What DevOps exactly? Okay, so let me clear it out. Suppose I have this application and I have created the infrastructure on cloud to deploy the application. Okay, suppose think about this is a cloud and I have created the infrastructure here to deploy my application. Okay, now in the company there won't be any single environment. There will be multiple environment. Let's say this is a dev environment. Okay, dev environment means the environment means the infrastructure where we will deploy the application to test it. We'll test whether the application is running fine or not. Once it is tested, what we do generally, there will be one more environment, something like staging. In the staging environment, what we do, let me mention here, we deploy the application after test is completed. We deploy the application and we monitor for a couple of days and we check whether any other issue is not coming while running the application. If everything goes well, there will be one more environment that is called the prod environment where we deploy the application for the production. And whatever the application is, once the application deployed in the production, the end user who wants to access this application, they will be able to access. Okay, so similar environment will be having multiple environment, dev, staging, and production. That's not all. In some company, they also for different kind of testing, they also develop another type of environment also. But these are the main environment I discussed. Now, what happens actually once the developer develop the application, what they do, they need a environment where they can deploy the application. So what was happening earlier after developing, it is not a very small thing to deploy application. They have to build the application, okay, and they have to deploy dependency issue. Lot of things are there. It takes actually months to deploy in the at least even in the dev environment also. It was taking. Once it is deployed, the testers they will test the application and they will check whether some issue is there or not. Okay, in order to test the application, they take also some time. Think about suppose they are taking 15 days of time or more than that to test the application. In that case, when they will find the error and they will inform back to the developer that there is a issue in this application in this functionality, developer application will be very big application. They will, you know, within that span of time, they would have been forget that where they have written the code or something. Again, they will go through the whole application and they will check any issue is there. So they will find it and they will resolve. Again, they will deploy and again tester will do the testing. So in that, lot of time was getting wasted. Okay, this was it looks small, but lot of time taking manual task they were doing. That is the reason in order to even deploy on the dev environment for the testing, it was taking longer time. And think about if it is taking longer time here itself, how long it is gonna take for the deploying the staging and production, right? So this was the major problem was happening. What DevOps is doing in DevOps, we have couple of tools that will come to that. In DevOps, what we will do basically, we will be creating a CI/CD pipeline. What is CI/CD? Continuous integration and the continuous. It can CD can be continuous delivery or it can be continuous deployment. So there is a small difference in that. I will discuss later. But let's not, you know, go into that. Let's simplify the things. Let's keep it simple. It's continuous integration. Basically, after developing the application, you have to build and test the application. That is called the continuous integration. Then you will be deploying to one of the environment. So that is called that comes under the CD, basically continuous delivery or continuous deployment. Okay. So what we'll do in DevOps, we have couple of tools. Using those tool, what we'll do, we'll basically automate the whole building the application and the deploying the application. So what will happen by that? By automating, as soon as developer develops the application, and after developing he will keep it somewhere. So where they keep? They generally keep in the something like version control system, for example the GitHub. So they will push the code or the developing code to the GitHub. Once they push it, that code will be automatically taken by the CI/CD which will develop. It will be automatically taken and it will be automatically built and automatically deployed on the environment within some minutes. It will take some minute to deploy. So as soon as they will push the code, it will be built and deployed by the CI/CD pipeline which will be creating. Okay, so that is how it is. Within some minute it will be deployed, and the tester, they can test the application and inform back to the developer. So now it is not taking time. Once all the test is completed, automatically this CI/CD will be deploying in the staging environment. Once everything goes well, then it will be automatically deployed in the production environment as well with some approval. So this is what the DevOps is doing. Now let's talk about, I hope you understood this one. Now let's talk about the total roadmap to become a cloud and DevOps engineer. First is the, you have to learn about the some Linux basics. Nobody will tell that, but without Linux you cannot survive in the cloud and DevOps. So Linux you have to learn. Once Linux is done, you have to learn one of the cloud. It's up to you which cloud you will run. You learn AWS or Azure. Then we have GCP. Basically, we have more than hundreds of cloud provider, but from that, these are the three major cloud provider, and they are very popular. And if you will ask me, I will prefer you should go for AWS and or Azure. Why? Because AWS is the cloud provider who has the highest market share in the market right now. After AWS, Azure having the second highest market share. After that, GCP. So if you go for AWS and Azure, you will be getting a lot of opportunity. Then after one of the cloud, you have to learn something like Terraform. Now, what is the Terraform? Terraform is actually in infrastructure as a code. We'll see that using Terraform, how easily we can develop our infrastructure on the any of the cloud platform. So you have to learn the Terraform also. Once Terraform is done, you have to learn Git. Git is basically the developer, after developing the application, they will keep their application to some of the version control system. So though they are keeping in the version control system, we have to know how to get those code from the Git, and we have to deploy the application. So for that we have to learn the Git as well. Once Git is completed, you have to learn the Docker. It is now Docker is the most important, because nowadays every company going towards the containerization of the application. So that means Docker is required, and even Kubernetes. By learning Kubernetes, you will see that how you can develop the container and you deploy those containers to the Kubernetes. Okay, so you have to learn the Kubernetes for that. Once Kubernetes completed, you have to learn the Ansible. Ansible is actually the infrastructure management, means the configuration management tool. What is the configuration management tool? Suppose you want to do some specific configuration in a server. What you will do, you will manually run the command and you will do it. Just think about, you have thousands of servers to do the same configuration. So it is very tough task. It will take a lot of time. Now using Ansible, you can simplify the things. Okay, so what you will do, You will write a configuration file in Ansible. We call it as a YAML file, and basically it is a playbook. And in the playbook, we will mention all the configuration what do I want to do, and I will execute it in the Ansible server. Automatically, the all the 100 server will be configured with that. I don't need to do. I just need to write a single configuration file and I execute it. That's it. So that is what the Ansible. Once Ansible is done, you have to learn the. Okay, let me mention over here. After Ansible, we have to learn the Jenkins. What is the Jenkins? Jenkins is actually the CI/CD tool. So our goal is to build the CI/CD using the Jenkins. So while building the CI/CD, we will be using all this tool, whatever I discussed, to build the CI/CD to automate the whole building and the deployment of the application. Once the Jenkins means while learning the Jenkins, we will even learn the build tool Maven. Then we will even learn the repository. Like after building the artifactory, we have to keep it somewhere. So in order to store our artifactory, we have to learn the Nexus repository. Okay, and few of the monitoring tool like Prometheus and Grafana. So you have to learn all these things to become a cloud and DevOps engineer. So that's all from my side. If you have any doubt, please go ahead and ask me. Hello, any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. So if you don't have any doubt, so that's all from my side. So let's call it a day and wind up the session. Okay.
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.